so this is going to be my review of a Dark Horse Godzilla comic. Yeah, for those who don't know, a long time ago, Dark Horse, before IDW, had the comic book rights to do Godzilla. However, before we go any further, there's a little bit of a technical term with these. Excuse me. Now, the thing is, with Dark Horse's Godzilla as compared to IDW's Godzilla, the difference was that IDW's Godzilla was the only one they had rights to, unlike where you had IDW's Godzilla comics, where they have rights to do all the monsters from pretty much all of Toho. I mean, they brought in the Gargantuans and they brought in Gazora, as well as a lot of other Toho monsters, and pretty much made a Toho-verse, so to speak. So, whereas in the Dark Horse comics, they only had rights to Godzilla. Now you're probably wondering, well, hold up, they're all under the same franchise, so wouldn't you have gotten Godzilla, wouldn't you have gotten the other monsters as well? Not necessarily, because you see, a lot of the monsters may have showed up in Godzilla, but there were other monsters that had their own rights, and each Godzilla, and Toho had rights to these monsters individually, so you had to pay for each monster. But in Dark Horse comics, it was only Godzilla. There was no Anguirus, there was no Rodan, there was pretty much no one. They had to literally make up their own monsters in these comic books. So yeah, so Godzilla Age of Monsters is pretty much a trade that's I'm pretty sure you can find the separate issues, but the trade is looks like a little manga. And it's only in black and white. I have to say that it's only in black and white. They don't have it in color. I wish they had it in color too, because the colors would have been nice. But in here, this is pretty much a retelling of Godzilla. Now, the other thing you may have noticed that this is on the cover right here. Godzilla looks like he's in his Heisei form, and which is, of course, at the time. This is when this comic was coming out in the 90s, that's when the Godzilla Heisei movies were coming out. So it made sense to have a Heisei design for Godzilla. They were just going with the same design as Godzilla in the movies. So let's get into the comic. Now the comic starts out with this young girl and her daughter. This young girl and her family, and her father discovers at this dig site some kind of ancient stone that is said to bring about these monsters. And here's where I have the big problem with this comic book. They pretty much kind of allude to that Godzilla is an ancient being. Now, they've done that before in GMK, technically speaking, that in GMK he was kind of like some kind of dark, evil spirit. So having said that, though, what was I gonna say? On the other hand, though, it's always been, but at least in GMK, Godzilla was he did have a radioactive backstory, but they did put a little spiritualism in here. In here, however, they pretty much say, yeah, Godzilla's pretty much a spirit. He's like an ancient monster, which I don't really like. I've always been prone to the whole radioactive story. I don't really like it when you change that around in here. So Godzilla gets summoned to the city. He kills this girl's family, and she proclaims vengeance on him. And yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much the first story. Following that is Godzilla in a story where he's back in the prehistoric era, and he fights this giant space dragon. The thing is with these Godzilla comics is that in these Godzilla comics, the fights are really damn short. That's the thing, and Godzilla always wins. But I will say about the original monsters that they come up with. There is a lot of cool monsters in Godzilla Age of Monsters that they have. Since they couldn't use the rights, of course, to the other monsters, the writer of the comic, whose name is, hang on, I'm looking at it right now, Kevin, they had a few writers like Randy Stradler and Steve Bessett. They also had Bob Eggleton and Arthur Adams, who did artwork for some of these comics. I love Arthur Adams as an artist. He does some great monsters. He does some great comic book work. And also Ed Brubaker wrote a comic in here. Yeah, Ed Brubaker, the guy best known for writing, for creating, for, pretty much making the Winter Soldier a thing and making its own movie, did a Godzilla comic. And you might be thinking, oh, it's like this cool, dark and gritty Godzilla comic. No, it's a comical story. It's like a Looney Tunes Godzilla story in here. And, yeah. So, getting back to the original story, Godzilla in here fights original monsters. I think my favorite in here was Gaikinku Jin and Bagura. Let's start off with Gaikinku Jin. Gaikinku Jin is an actual Japanese samurai demon that Godzilla fights. And we also, in here, it's not really so much as a fight as Gaikinku Jin getting smashed. It's pretty much taking that old song of, I get knocked down but I get up again, kind of thing, where Godzilla just keeps smashing him, and then Gaikinku Jin keeps growing bigger. And they have a pretty alright fight. The other favorite monster in here is Bagura. Bagura is this giant flesh-eating space bat that has a sonic scream. And Godzilla, and also the other thing is that Godzilla doesn't really fight in Japan. He takes his fights to like California and Vancouver. That's where the final fight happens. You'd think in Japan. Nope, Vancouver, Canada. Yeah, Canada gets wrecked by Godzilla in here. So I found that pretty interesting. We also had, also there is one monster in here that is just so goddamn stupid. Cybersaurus. Yes, that is his name. Cybersaurus. And he looks like this weird, he looks like he's trying to be Mechagodzilla. He really does look like they were trying to say, oh, this is not Mechagodzilla. So not Mechagodzilla is going to fight Godzilla. But yeah, it's not so much an ongoing story until the end, because the first few issues are pretty much these standalone stories following G-Force trying to follow Godzilla, and then we get back to the story of the woman who's grown older now, finding a way to kill Godzilla, and the last few issues is pretty much, oh, well, we can kill Godzilla now. Oh, shit, Bagura's here. Only thing that can fight him is Godzilla. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. That's really the thing. That's really much the story. Compared to, like, some of the other... Now, the thing is that this is no Godzilla Half-Century War. My opinion, Godzilla the Half-Century War is one of, if not the best Godzilla comic, keyword Godzilla comic, that has been out there. Godzilla Age... And, compared to the other IDW stuff, Rulers of the Earth, or, a few of their other things. I mean, yeah, I won't, say that IDW had put out some great Godzilla stuff. Kingdom of Monsters sucks! Yeah, so I can't really say that, IDW's done a lot of good things, but they have, like, straightened up their pace with Rulers of the Earth and the Half-Century War. But Age of Monsters, it's not really necessary Godzilla reading. If you want to pick it up, I'd say look for it cheap online. If you really want to read it, I'd say, check it out. The artwork, if anything, the artwork's pretty interesting, but for the most part, I think this is, unless you're a diehard Godzilla fan, I'd say get this. I got this because I was in a Godzilla mood, and plus, I got this at a time period when IDW wasn't making the Godzilla comics at the time. So this was technically the first Godzilla comic I ever bought. I've actually only read a little of the Marvel Godzilla. But I've been meaning to like pick up the Marvel Essential that collects all 24 issues of the Marvel Godzilla, because I really want to read that on a whole. But anyway, yeah, that's pretty much my review in general, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. So yeah, anyway, I'm out.